everybody. Welcome to Mentally Awkward, where you waste your Wednesdays with us as we talk about anything and everything. My name is Alex, and I am joined here today with my bros, Nick and Thomas. Say hello, bros.
Hello, bros.
Hello, bros.
Way to be literal.
That's what you told us to say.
Okay, whatever. Okay. Well, today we are going to be hopefully making future weebs in the making as we do an intro to anime. This is all about if you've never done anime and never watched it, or any mangas and any related things. So if you are new to anime, there's a lot of stuff for you here. If you're, a veteran weeb like myself, then hopefully maybe I pop an anime or two you've never heard of and you could explore. But to start off, we shall define what is an anime. Because some people have confused that for cartoons. I'm sure parents have all the time, but
They are cartoons.
I swear to God, I'll smack you digitally through this thing if you say that again. But okay, so if we...
That's how you know Alex is an expert.
Yes, I take this very seriously. As you see, hopefully one day I will get my doctorate in anime studies and become Professor Anime. Probably change my last name or whatever, but unfortunately right now I'm still in school at Weebu University. I graduated from Otaku Community College not too long ago, where I got my associates. Fortunately, Weeb University is not as prestigious as things like Ligma U, where the famous Professor Lando hails from. But one day, maybe I can do my doctorate there. Anyhow.
Wait, no. Hold on.
What?
That was a stupid bit.
That was a stupid... Okay. We'll get into the anime. Craig, you can cut some of that out.
So Craig's keeping it. That was a stupid bit. I need people to hear that you said all that stuff with a straight face.
Okay. We'll get into what is
I can
anime.
do grad work at Ligma U.
Shut up. Oh
I would love to do
Move on, man.
Alright, so what is anime? So, it can refer to any kind of manga, light novel, or webtoon adapted in Japan for the anime format. Cinematic, anime, visual, animations moving. That means it must come out of Japan or the source material is out of Japan. So you can have originals be called anime if they are produced out of Japan. That means, as many stands would like to say, Avatar is not an anime. It is indeed a cartoon. I've also heard the term Chinese anime because now China is producing some stuff. Chinese anime, I'm not a whole huge fan of the name because technically anime all comes out of Japan, so to have Chinese anime is, I guess it's the only thing for now, but maybe once it gains traction, it'll have a name. But that is the definition of anime. So any samurai or Japanese-esque style cartoons you see here in America from like Cartoon Network or something, or I don't know, but whatever the kids watch these days, those cannot be classified as anime unless they are produced in Japan. Now that you know what anime is, you might be wondering, what kind of anime genres are there? Well, unfortunately or fortunately for you, there is many. Very, very many. So if we start with the basics, we'll start with shonen. Shonen animes are all about young teenage heroes, usually dudes between like 15 and you can round up to maybe like 20. They're usually like entering high school or around that age of the 20s where they've got a big goal that they want to do and gain all this power, defeat their enemies. It's the typical kind of hero's journey-esque kind of thing. It's probably the most popular kind of anime genre, given the fact that the anime that was introduced to the West through Dragon Ball was a shonen. Now, for each of these genres, I will explain a little bit and also give some recommendations. And then if you bros have anything you would like to add or some other recommendations, please do. But yeah, so the shonens, it's the basic format. You've got a guy. He's like, I've got a goal. Whether that goal is to get revenge on someone, become the leader of the world, or whatnot. But yeah, he's got some goals, and to get there, he's usually allowed to kick a lot of ass, and that means a lot of power ups, a lot of I'm gonna do this for my friends. Friendship is huge in shonens, but yeah, and also another trope with that is the fact that female characters and female development of characters just get shit on. But recommendations, you have the big three: Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. And just to furthermore speculate on shonens, if you tell these to anyone and someone's like, no, the big three is actually Naruto, One Piece, and Dragon Ball, they are shit. It is Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach because at the time each of them was premiering in Shonen Jumps, those issues would dominate. Well, those mangas would come out in the issues of Shonen Jump, and they would be like the top charters. Like, oh, this is the one that everyone's buying. So Dragon Ball is not in the big three. He is basically the father to them. Do you guys have any thoughts on shonen animes or recommendations? Anything I missed?
I have only ever watched Dragon Ball.
Fair
So
enough.
no, I will say if you're a Dragon Ball fan, GT is better than Super. Because I hate you. That's why.
That's spicy, Nick.
That's
I-
very spicy.
Super Saiyan 4 is my favorite transformation.
That I have to agree on. That I feel was done so much better. But
I will fight anyone who says GT is trash. Because you're wrong.
there's can be a lot of debates, future weebs. So to move on to the next genre, the only logical progression would be to move on to senins. These are like
Wait, what? Wait, what was it?
senins.
Sennies?
Senins. S-E... I might have spelled it wrong, but I think it's S-E-I-N-E-N. It's basically like shonens, but
I think that would be pronounced seinen.
seinen? That sounds better than what I've been saying. But yeah, you've got seinen, which are essentially more mature versions of shonen. The characters
Like
may
K-On!
not... Okay,
You say K-On?
Yeah,
Why?
It is.
What?
is
What?
it?
check Wikipedia, man.
Yeah, but that's Wikipedia. You gotta go to my anime list to check that.
Oh, okay.
I'm on,
I'll-
wait.
I'll check that.
Wait. No, I'm sorry, Alex. We're pausing right now. I'm looking this up. Hey, people that say, like One Punch Man, many people discuss that K-On! Is a seinen or not. And it's a whole... It is, apparently, according to Removed User. It just happened to be serialized in the Seinen magazine.
There's this. Jeez, I'm just shooting my credibility as a veteran weeb now.
Listen, I only saw this because there was a meme like Chad Virgin thing, like Virgin Shonen Attack on Titan and Chad Seinen K-On!
Objectively speaking, yes, it is. Subjectively speaking, it still is because the definition of words don't change for your convenience. Thank
Fair
you,
enough.
alcohol
Actually,
aside.
I think I could. I'd have to watch K-On! I've never watched it. I've just seen some memes.
Bro.
But have you seen it?
No, but you're the...
I've
Who's
got
in charge here?
I know, but I had stuff on. I had examples that I've known about. Okay, but the point
Craig
is,
saved
senins
his
are.
credibility.
I got to get back to the thing.
Craig's not all powerful. He doesn't work that way. We pay him so much for him to do so little.
Yeah, but essentially, senins are. They're like shonens, except they have more nuanced themes, or they tend to be grittier, edgier. They're just like for a more mature audience. Shonen, some people will find that the tropes are a bit childish, or like, oh, there's not. It just overall shonens might feel childish, and someone's like, well, I want something a little more serious, or for like an older audience, because maybe you're like 30 and you can't relate to these shonen protags because they're like 15. So for senins, Fuck. We've got Attack on Titan, Vinland Saga, both of which they're just grittier and deal with more. The themes are a little more nuanced and well, maybe not nuanced, but like they're not as simple to understand. It's not like, oh, the power of friendship or the determination of hard work, or maybe the plot line's a little more involved and it requires someone who's a little bit older, or at least someone who's more well read to understand. Or it could be something like One Punch Man, where there's a lot of ironic comedy, or it's the entire thing's a gag. So unless you like understood the idea of what a gag is, you might assume it's like, yeah. And apparently K-On!, which I thought was just an idle anime, but I
haven't watched it
digress.
either. I just heard that somewhere.
Ah,
I was only reading off of a forum page, and I have no clue.
well, I
The
will investigate and
factuality of that.
I will do a segment on sending K-On!, and if
I mean,
it fits or not.
yeah.
But to move on, there's action, which a lot of these genres tend to just cross each other a lot. So like there's basically no anime that's solely one genre, and if it is, it's really hard to classify it as just that one genre because it's just so many genres. But the next one's action, and it really refers to anything with a lot of fight scenes or just a lot of yeah, mainly just fight scenes and action, guns, bolts, and magic, and just stuff flying everywhere. It's just like the plot line may be a little subdued, but you're like, oh my god, they kick ass. That's basically the essence of an action anime. They kick ass. So for there, you've got Fire Force, which is actually a shonen, but there's a lot of action in there, and then you could basically sub in any other shonen you'd like. Fairy Tale would be one. I had a lot of other genres that I wanted to save some other animes for, so I don't have another action anime right off the top of my head. But going along with action animes, there's also adventure animes, which essentially mean you've got a protagonist who goes on some sort of journey, whether it is through the world or through a portal or whatever. But essentially, the whole anime is about the journey this protagonist makes and his development along the way. So, some examples of that are, God, it was on the top of my head, and I was just watching it. Jobless Reincarnation, which is also a very interesting isekai, but it's very much a adventure anime, and I think what's it called? Blue Exorcist would also work in there because it's a journey about the guy, and I think he goes to school as a demon, and I've heard a lot of stuff about it. But from there's also fantasy anime, which a lot of times gets confused with isekais, but there's a clear distinction. Fantasy animes start in the fantasy world. In an isekai, you have a protagonist who comes from our normal modern world who is launched into a different world, usually a fantasy. But the elements of a fantasy usually include medieval kind of clothing, medieval style of battles and fighting. So usually there's not guns or they're rare. Usually people have magic and what's it called? There's usually like kings and queens rather than presidents and formal governments, very formal governments like the bureaucracies we have today. But yeah, there's usually a lot of it's a lot of medieval elements and magic and also a lot of medieval creatures, goblins, dragons, orcs, they're all there. So as I've said, there's a lot of crossover between isekais and fantasy. A lot of isekais are labeled as also fantasy genres, but the I've managed to find some much fantasies that are not isekais. I have Black Clover, which also happens to be a shonen, and it's very good, and Goblin Slayer. Nick, would you like to discuss a little bit about Goblin Slayer?
Goblin Slayer is the greatest anime of all time. That is it. Watch it.
It is very good. Just a heads up, it is a little gory. Anyway, since I mentioned isekais, we might as well jump to there. Like I said, you have a character from the modern world, the one we live in now, usually, and he's launched into a fantasy world, or at least some other world that's wildly different than the one we have now. There's a lot of elements that are related to fantasy that are in isekai. Usually, they get launched into a fantasy world where the technology is not up to there, but they've got magic, kings and queens, goblins, orcs, and all types of medieval mythical creatures. And also, they tend to there's a common trope that the main character is often overpowered or he has some sort of special ability not seen in this world. And yeah, isekai also has a stereotype of being a lot of trash. While that's not completely true, there is a decent amount of truth to that. Now, I would like to jump to the sci-fi genre. Sci-fi genre is very similar to the genre of sci-fi we see in the movies and shows, and those shows on the actual network Sci-Fi. There's basically anything that is somewhat sciencey / mythical, magical. Usually more sciencey, aliens and the weird science, physics, chemistry crap that you'd like to talk about or whatever. There's stuff there that classifies as sci-fi. Like Dr. Stone is a very good sci-fi anime. It's deals with like time travel and a lot of actual sciencey stuff while also still being a fun anime. And then the famous Steins Gate, which I believe is one of the very, very entertaining and fleshed out versions of how time travel works. It is very interesting and I would recommend. The next genre would be we'll change it up and we will transition to sports anime. Sports anime, usually high school, but they don't have to be tied to high school. But they focus on maybe one protagonist or a group of protagonists competing and training for one sport and their trials to overcome it. They're usually very good in the fact that because all the sports are usually sports that exist in the modern world, they usually have some sort of consultant or reference who's an expert in the sport. I mean, depends on your definition of expert, but someone who's well versed in the sport who can comment on the training methods and how certain things and rules of the sport work. So, if you're looking for more realistic anime, the sport anime would be a genre that might appeal to you. Just know that because I say realistic, that does not mean a one-to-one recreation. Clearly, anime is also a genre that is animated, meaning that you could draw in a lot of stuff that couldn't happen in the real world. So there's a lot of over dramatized elements, so it's not always a one-to-one, but it's still much more realistic than a lot of other animes, and definitely much more realistic than the genres I've mentioned so far. My recommendations would be Haiku. I haven't watched it, but I've heard a lot of good things. It's about volleyball. And what I believe to be one of the best, if not the best, sports anime of all time, Hajime no Ippo. It is a boxing anime that heavily looks into the life of boxers and their training and how they prepare for different matches against different opponents. It's funny, it's great, it's decently paced, and it's just a great anime overall. I think everyone should watch it. And speaking of sports, there is a special, well, I wouldn't say subsection, but there's a martial arts anime, which are kind of like sports, but they always focus on the martial arts, the training, the fighting. A very good characteristic of them is the action and fight scenes are usually phenomenal. That's where all the budget of these animes are spent on. So yeah, they tend to sometimes they tend to have a stereotype that they prioritize the action over the plot or the anime. So if that's something you don't like, that it's not that it happens a lot, but it does happen a decent amount. I would recommend Dragon Ball. I would recommend all of them. Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z Kai is just the English dub. Well, not the, it's a remake of the English dub, so it just sounds and looks like it's basically like an updated version. Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super, all the Dragon Ball movies. Those are all pretty good. And also Kenichi's Mightiest Disciple is a very it focuses on the different styles of martial arts. You've got a kid in high school who often gets bullied, meets this girl who lives in a dojo, and she's got like 7 different masters teaching her different styles of martial arts. There's a Muay Thai guy, there's a weapon specialist, boxing guy, judo, I think, jiu-jitsu. That one is very much involved in the techniques and nuances of fighting. Next genre would be comedy, which I believe is very self-explanatory. Comedy is a very wide genre because of the fact that you could have comedy in any single one of the other genres. You could have comedy in a fantasy world, comedy in a regular world, comedy in an isekai. But it means that the main focus is maybe not the plot, but they like to prioritize telling a funny story, whether that means that sometimes there's some plot holes or some realism goes out the window. My recommendations are Gintama and Konosuba. Gintama is essentially like it's a weird fantasy. It's a fantasy world, all right, but it's not like the medieval fantasy. It's just one of those things that you'll understand it when you watch it. I've heard it's very good. I haven't finished it, but it's very good. It's hilarious, and one of the nice things is that even though there are a lot of episodes, a lot of them are just episodic, so you could watch one episode and not have to worry like if you drop it and then pick it up later like, "Oh, I don't remember what happened," because it's episodic, so you don't have to go back and rewatch. And then Konosuba is a very popular isekai comedy. It's just hilarious. It's one of my go-tos. On to the next genre, we have high school anime, which again, very self-explanatory. It just focuses on the elements and mostly kids in high school. So again, like comedy, you can have a lot of other genres tie into this, but it just means that high school is a big part of the characters' lives and does have a decent amount of weight on the plot. My recommendations there are Komi-san Can't Communicate, that came out this year and is also on Netflix, so it's probably more widely available. And Love is War, absolutely phenomenal. It's hilarious. I recommend you watch the sub first and then watch the dub and realize that you might want to never watch the sub again because it's just hilarious. Tying into the high school is often romance. Romance again, self-explanatory. It focuses on the development of relationship or relationships between pairs of people. And yeah, it's very, again, a lot of crossover with other genres. Typically either slice of life or high school. But the 2 romance I would recommend are Golden Time and Tonikawa. Golden Time is it's about a college couple or a couple that meets in college, and then there's Tonikawa, which is one of the few romance animes that shows the characters dating during the anime. So if a lot of the times you watch movies where the 2 lovers don't date together till the end of the movie, and you're like, well, I wanted to see what would happen when they date. This is Tonikawa's an anime for you because they start the relationship right away, and most of the episodes are all about their dating. On to a subset of the romance genre is shoujos. They usually pertain to they usually are geared towards teenage girls, and evidently most of the genre is all about teenage relationships. And again, it can fall under a lot of the other genres. My recommendations are Toradora and Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, often referred to as just Bunny Girl Senpai. Both of them focus on high school relationships, and they're very different, and they're very nice. Next we have Slice of Life, which basically means it's not action, it's not shonen, it's not adventure. Well, it can be, but it's more about the the everyday lives of characters and just more about the interactions between characters. So it's not if you're a person that likes to watch action-packed stuff, Slice of Life is probably not the genre for you. I would recommend Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid and Helpful Fox Senko. Both are very good. Miss Kobayashi is my number 2 favorite anime of all time, and it's very nice. They're usually fun and wholesome. Next we've got monster anime, which basically means it could refer to like fantasy and stuff, but it usually means there's like demi-humans or humans that are part monster, different races of that such, and the fact that there's difference between regular humans and monster humans plays a decent role in the plot and the characterization of the characters. My recommendations there would be Monster Girl Doctor and Interview with Monster Girls. They both focus on like the different aspects of what it means to be a monster human and the different challenges they may face. And the last genre I would like to talk about or introduce briefly is the ecchi genre. Spoiler warning: most of these are not safe for work. So you never really want to watch.
Waited to the 30-minute mark to bring this up.
You bet I did. We're gonna put this right at the end of the genre talk. Yeah. So if you're someone that doesn't want to cross the line between porn and hentai, but wants that somewhere gray area, ecchi animes are for you. You will not see. These genres tend to employ certain kind of cliches and tropes so that you don't see the female anatomy. So you won't see any boobs or you won't see the female groin, but you'll see very close to that. So if you're someone that's, you know who you are. Point is, if you want to watch this genre, it's there for you.
If you're listening to this podcast right now, this is for you. Okay? We know at Valentine's Day just happened. This is for you.
But recommendations, there's a ton out there. That you've got Monster Musume, which is very, very famous for being ecchi anime. You've got Prison School, absolutely hilarious, but most people don't watch it because they don't want to be caught dead watching it. Monster High School DxD, and the one I recently watched, Yuna in the Hot Springs, which was surprisingly wholesome at the end. But you'll watch an ecchi anime and you'll understand what it is right away. Now, the last thing in terms of genres I would like to talk about is seasonals, which are technically not a genre, but refer to animes of the season. The 4 seasons being fall, winter, spring, and summer. So when someone talks about, I picked up a couple seasonal animes, that means that they've started animes that were just premiering this season. That doesn't mean new animes coming this season. It includes both new animes and animes that are getting a second season that start in said season. So we are now in the winter anime, which starts in December and ends in February. The seasonals I'm watching right now are My Dress Up Darling, Demon Slayer, and From Commonplace to World's Strongest. So if we were to break down the time periods of the seasons, they are winter, which starts in December, ends in February. Spring starts in February, March, ends in May. The summer season, which starts in June, ends in the end of August, beginning of September. And then fall, which goes from the end of August, beginning of September to end of November, beginning of December. Now, most of these animes end up to being, if they're like true seasonals, they're usually only about 12 episodes, so that means 12 weeks. So they just end at when the season would actually end, and then sometimes though they can go longer, maybe 20, 25 episodes, but the seasonal refers to when that anime started, not when it ends. So if you have what's it called? You have something like Jaki-sama. That was an anime that's technically a summer seasonal anime because it started in June, but it ended mid-October, early November. So one might say, well, it ended in the fall, but it started in the summer. So what does that mean? You classify the seasonal based on when it started. And just to close out, I just wanted to, as one watches anime, one may be tempted to be like, well, where can I find other people that watch anime or talk about it? There's clearly your Instagram and Reddit. A lot of Instagrammers have Discord to talk about their animes. You've got YouTube. And, if I had to recommend someone on YouTube, it'd be CJ the Champ. He's absolutely hilarious, and he honestly blew up real fast. And to end at least my bit, I just want to put some personal recommendations out there. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. If you have not watched it, you should watch it. It's just it's technically a shonen or a seinen, but it's JoJo's. So you should always.
Part 6 is in progress.
Part 6 is in progress. You can find them on Netflix, and it's just a wild ride that you can't really classify. It's just JoJo. I would also recommend One Piece, a very big, very long shonen that has been going on since the 1990s. We are currently at episode, I think, 1008 or 1009. So if you do decide to watch this, just know that you have a lot to catch up on. But it's phenomenal. The world building, the storytelling, the backstories are just phenomenal. The only problem is the pacing at the big arcs is slow as a snail, so you'll feel like you have to binge it. Also, I've got Jujutsu Kaisen. It's a seinen, but it's very good. Animation done by Mappa Animations, which is famous for having phenomenal looking animations. It's really good. Plot's good. Action is great. And then lastly, I'd recommend Overly Cautious Hero. It's a comedic isekai about an isekai hero who's overpowered, but he's so cautious to a fault. He pisses off everybody, and it's just hilarious. You watch it and you'd be like, it's hard to find another main character like him. Do you bros have anything you would like to add to my intro to anime discussion?
Well, you kind of stole the show today, and I think that was a
Sorry.
good thing. No, that was a good thing. That we had a lot to cover. You did a good job. You get a cookie. It's not my
Thank
episode.
you.
You'll get a cookie in my episode. I think the takeaway: anime's pretty cool.
You bet it is.
You should watch it if you like things. I like things. Therefore, this has my seal of approval on it. Your turn, Thomas.
Like for suggestions?
Just to talk. I don't know. You've been quiet this episode. Say something, boy.
I have been because I feel bad about interrupting.
Nah, interrupt.
This is super informal. I'd rather you interrupt because there's definitely stuff I missed.
I grew up with
Yeah,
Italians. I can't interrupt.
Fair enough.
So +1 for JoJo. That's pretty cool. I did watch High School DxD. Also pretty cool. Close your door when watching that. I was going to mention it earlier, but I forgot. My Hero Academia. I'm nowhere near caught up on it, but what I watched was good.
It's a very solid shonen. I would recommend, though, you stay away from most of the fandom because they are toxic shippers.
I think we'll touch upon
that
fandom at
happens
some point.
Yeah,
that happens with a lot of fandoms.
But just don't talk to other people.
I will educate you at some point in the future on fandoms and what to avoid and what to expect. But
do you have a homework assignment, Mr. Professor Doctor?
Yes, I do have a homework assignment. One would be to watch any one of the animes I've said in here. I don't care which one. You can look up pretty much any of these animes on my anime list or any other streaming site to get an idea of how long it would be in terms of episodes. So like if you just want to dip your feet into the water, you could choose something that's 12 episodes. or if you've been wanting to do it for a while, you want to go all in and finding something super long, I'd recommend any kind of shonen because they tend to be at least over 100 episodes. But and I would one second part of your homework would be to avoid certain shows. While the anime community is a very loving and sociable community, there are those out there that would just like to watch the world burn and destroy new anime people. So, if someone tells you it recommends Boku no Pico, they are not your friend. I swear to God, don't look it up. Just don't. And what's the other one? Redo of Healer. That's not at okay. It's pretty bad, but if you look it up and you're just curious to see how it goes, that's fine. But please don't watch it because of the source material and because you're into that sort of thing. And again, if someone recommends you that with a malicious smile, they are not your friend. So, with ending this discussion, I say class dismissed, and we will see you next week.